What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian Colon from House of Rasslin, and this is my review for the May 13th episode of AEW Rampage. Like, share, comment, subscribe, follow House of Rasslin on all social media platforms. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, this episode of AEW Rampage was on an earlier time. Normally, it comes on, I'm in Chicago in the Midwest, so it comes on at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, but it came on at 4:30 Central Standard Time, which if you were on the West Coast, it came on at 2:30 p.m. Yes, 2:30 p.m. if you were on the West Coast. This episode of Rampage, I'm not going to say I was disappointed. I will say that a lot of these matches may have or should have been on AEW Dark Elevation. As I was watching this episode of Rampage, I'm probably going to do a little rant before I get into these matches and everything. I do feel AEW and Tony Khan, they should lean into having more, because they can't put everybody on Dynamite or Rampage, they should use Elevation as that third show, because let's face it, it's before the crowd and everything. Like, they should have it more, for all you guys that are, I'm gonna go old school, kind of like your WCW Worldwide, your WWF Superstars, more of, you could say, WWF Heat when it first started. That's the way I see how they should use it, because a lot of, the Death Triangle versus Butcher and Blade and Mark Quinn, like, that's more of a Dark Elevation match. Like, I'm glad to see Death Triangle and everything, but that's more of a AEW Dark Elevation match, like I said. Shawn Spears versus Bear Boulder. That's a Dark Elevation match. Like, that shouldn't be on a Rampage. What other... Yeah, everything else outside of this was okay, but just those first two matches, like, they should not have been on Rampage. So, I mean, that's my rant right there. But yeah, this Rampage... Man, I gotta say, like, the only thing that I would say, I wouldn't say this show is missable. Like, you could just rush through. I will say the segment with the baddies, Jade Cargill, Red Velvet, and Kira Hogan was okay, but even that, they could have done a little bit more with it, because the baddies are over. Like, they're over on social media and everything. The match between Rio and Ruby Soho was good after they came back from commercial. That's when everything picked up. The main event was okay. Scorpio Sky and Kazarian. But man, you guys know I'm a big AEW fan, but this Rampage was not it. Like, this was not something that, oh my god, this was amazing. Like, this match was great. This match was great. Like, this was not a good match. Not a good match. Not a AEW Rampage that we're used to, that we're accustomed to seeing. I don't know if it's, for me, maybe the fact that they were up against an NBA game, the NHL playoffs and everything, just that whole thing happening at that time, and then people not, I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. But this card, like, it was like a mix of Dark Elevation and like a few in-between match or middle matches that you see on a Rampage. Yeah, nothing major happened here that I would consider major. Again, I'll get into the matches right now. The first match was Butcher Blade, Mark Quinn versus Death Triangle. It was a trios match. It was a solid match. It was good to see Death Triangle back. You could tell that they're getting used to having Ray Phoenix back. Of course, he recovered from, that really gruesome arm injury that thankfully was not more severe than what it was, because that was crazy. But you could tell they were getting used to the chemistry and everything. I wish that when Death Triangle have these trios matches, that with Death Triangle, specifically Ray Phoenix and Penta, that they have Lucha Libre rules. I think that's a cool addition that would make them even more unique. Like, hey, we're going to wrestle our style, Lucha Libre rules. And, of course, they have to adhere to the other rules, which you set up the dynamic of them having to, their strength is Lucha Libre rules, but their weakness is not being in Lucha Libre rules, which I wish they would play more into that. But it is what it is. But yeah, what was cool about this match also was Kyle O'Reilly was in the crowd and he was taking notes. Of course, he's going to be facing Ray Phoenix in the Owen Hart tournament. I believe it's going to be next Wednesday. I think, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comment below if that is the case. So he was in the crowd. This match ended with Pac performing a beautiful Black Arrow. 1, 2, 3. He hit that thing so beautifully. And as he was doing that, the Lucha Bros jumped on Butcher and Blade. He pins him 1, 2, 3. They win the match. Lights go out. And we know what that means. We know who they're feuding with. The House of Black. And they're in the ring, on the ring apron. Buddy Matthews is on one ring post. Brody King is another. And Malachi Black is in the center. So they have this stare down. Lights go black again. And they come back on and they're gone. I tweeted this. I wish and I hope that AEW keeps the lights going off, specifically for the House of Black. Do not do it for anybody else. Use it for the House of Black. It fits Malachi Black. That's how he debuted. His debut was one of the best debuts in AEW because it was totally unexpected. We did not expect him for another 2-3 months, and it was like, oh wow, that's his thing. Let him have that. The lights going off. That's his thing. Do not give it to anybody else. Keep it for him. So that was a cool part of Rampage, just seeing the stare down. Then we had the match between Shawn Spears and Bear Boulder. There was a point in this match where freaking Shawn Spears carried Bear Boulder. That dude is 340 pounds, and he freaking did a delivery carry. I believe that's what the move's called. And I'm like, yo, Shawn Spears is the man. And I like that because it did tell a story of him preparing for his match against Wardlow. So it's like, okay. This is interesting. He's basically telling, like, hey, if I can pick this dude up, I can handle Wardlow, which we know Wardlow is going to beat the hell out of him. We'll see what happens with that. But that was a pretty cool moment right there. Then we get a backstage segment with Tony Nese and Mark Sterling. Mark Sterling, they're basically complaining that at Double or Nothing's buy-in, you're going to have Hook and Danhausen versus Tony Nese and Mark Sterling. Mark Sterling, this was funny because he's like, I'm not a wrestler. Wardlow put his hands on me. I just can't do this. And Tony Nese is basically saying, you know what? I don't care if you can't wrestle or not. I can beat both these guys by myself, and I'll beat freaking Danhausen again like nothing again. So that was a pretty cool. Actually, this whole Rampage, basically most of the backstage segments were the best things about this show. Just saying, that's how it was for me. Most of the backstage segments were good for me. Then we get the Owen Hart Women's Tournament, Rio versus Ruby Soho. I do gotta say, this was brought up on social media in a few posts, shows for AEW Dynamite. I do think AEW has an issue with match placement for the women's matches. If this match, Rio and Ruby Soho, happened right after the Death Triangle Butcher and Blade match, the crowd would have been more hot into it. But it seems like AEW's been placing a lot of these matches, these women's matches, in spots that after the crowd has, gone through all these emotions, they're just, and it's coming across like it's bathroom breaks, which you don't want that for anything on your show, especially for the women's matches, because, in the past 10 years, whether it was Impact or WWE, and on the independents, a lot of women have put in a lot of work, effort into their matches and into their craft to get rid of that, hey, this is a women's match, this is a bathroom break. Like, no, this is a must-see match just like the men's match. And I think this match really suffered from it because once they went to commercial, when they came back, this match picked up. They started landing in. I enjoyed the latter part of this match. But that is one thing that I do got to say, Tony Khan and AEW does need to improve on the match placement of the women's matches. Like, if you're going to have, I can't remember what was the first match this past Wednesday. I'll take case in point. If you're going to have CM Punk and Dax Hardwood, open the show, have a solid women's match. Chris Statlander versus Layla Hirsch, just saying. Have that the second match, not the fourth of 6 matches where it's, you've already had 3 matches where everything has gone up and down. You have 2 segments and the crowd has gone into it and now they're just like, like you want to have the women's matches a part of building the momentum, not the break for the momentum and then the momentum. Like, you don't want to do that because then you're going to have a lot of people that just aren't going to be interested in the women's matches, which a lot of us, including myself, want to see more improvement and more, I would say, I want to see more resourcefulness and utilization with the women's division in AEW. There's a lot you can do, and it's very simple. But this match was pretty cool. Rio, she reversed a bridge that Ruby Soho was trying to perform. And Ruby Soho, man, poor Rio, man. She got freaking wailed. Ruby Soho was laying it in. She gave her a knee, a super kick. She gave her so much, and Rio was kicking out, and eventually she kept doing it, and Rio did not break out of the 3 count. So Ruby Soho moves on in the Owen Hart Women's Tournament. Like I said, the last part of this match was good. And by last part, once they went to commercial break, after the commercial break, this match just picked up, and I loved it. Then we get a backstage segment, which I got to say, this is probably one of the best things of this show tonight, was you had the Gun Club and the Acclaim with Billy Gunn. Man. So Billy Gunn is basically saying, hey, we need to come up with some trademarks, some hand gestures, and what have you. And I'm just going to tell you to watch this because it's hilarious. So every time Austin Gunn had a suggestion, his dad's like, no, we can't do that. And then when Max Caster would come up with a suggestion, he's like, that's a brilliant idea. And it's like, oh my God. And both Gunn brothers are just like, all right, yeah, that's good. Yeah, all right. And there's like, it's like, wait a minute, your dad's like agreeing, like what? So this is going to be interesting how they utilize these 2 tag teams in this faction. Surprisingly, what most people don't know, Max Caster, of course, we know that Max Caster can rap and everything, but most people don't know that Austin Gunn is a rapper and he's released a record. You can check him out and everything. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Towards the end of this, Billy Gunn's like, yeah, I got a match for you. It's going to be great. And they're like, hey, is it on Dynamite? He's like, no. Is it on Rampage? No. It's on Dark Elevation. Like, yeah! And it's like, oh my God, these guys are so goofball. So I'm really intrigued on how this will play out. The Acclaimed they're over. Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, the crowd loves them. They're into their gimmick and everything. It's so cool to see them where they're at. Then after this, we get an in-ring promo from Jade Cargill and the baddies. This was pretty dope. All three women, I tweeted this, they look like superstars. This is a great presentation. Again, going back to presenting the women after the first match or what have you, and just keep the momentum going. Look, if you're going to have Britt Baker, mind you, all the women on their show are attractive, are charismatic. They have this presence. Like, you want to see what they're going to do, what they're going to say. You got to start putting them more after that first match. Get them out there. And these three women, Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, and Red Velvet, they need to be on Dynamite and Rampage every week because they have that star quality. They have something that you do not see in WWE or Impact Wrestling, which those two companies have, the other top wrestling rosters outside of Stardom and, of course, Shimmer and those other places and stuff like that. But WWE and Impact have the top two women's wrestling rosters. You need to showcase Jade Cargill and the baddies every week because you have something there and they have a presentation. Granted, they're attractive, they're confident, they're like, you know what, we know we're the stuff, and ain't nobody gonna tell us, and we're gonna get all the gold, and we're gonna stack up these wins. You need to put that more on TV, especially after the second match. We need to see Jade Cargill more. She is over. Like, she is over, where every time everyone sees her, they're like, that is a freaking superstar. Like, she is Hollywood bound. If not now, eventually she will be. She has that presentation. You need to capitalize on it. Granted, their men's roster is deep, but it's like, you know what? It might be her that's going to be the mainstream star that you guys are looking for because she has it and you need to capitalize on it. Especially with her husband being a former Major League Baseball player and Jimmy Rollins. Like, you need to capitalize on that. That crossover, it's already there. Do it. But basically, this segment was Tony Schiavone asking her, or telling her, like, hey, Hikaru Shida was injured, so we got your replacement. And Mark Sterling's like, no, there's no replacement. Because Hikaru Shida can't compete, therefore, Jade Cargill, wins, or not Jade Cargill, Red Velvet. Red Velvet will move on in the tournament, and Tony Schiavone's like, no, that's not how it works. Here is your opponent. And Chris Statlander comes out. I wish there would have been, she would have came closer and just, instead of just standing there and just looking, like, they focused more on her and they didn't cut back to, like, enough to Red Velvet and her reaction. Like, they just, like, it was very awkward. I wish they would have done a little bit better of just boom, 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 like, and just cut right away. That's something AEW does need to improve on, is capturing the emotion of the moment. They've done it a few times, but a few times they've just missed the boat on that. Then we had, of course, the pre-match with Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. And, they've been, tag team champions, their friendship. And, of course, Mark Henry, it's time for the main event. So we get to the match, and I like that Excalibur really broke down, or he didn't break down, but he just reminded us that, hey, these were the first AEW tag team champions. They've had a 20-year friendship, and, Scorpio Sky kept his word. Hey, I'll give you the title, the title shot and everything if I beat Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti were at ringside with the Mixed Tag Team Championship belts from Lucha Libre, AAA. That was an interesting kind of like an Easter egg and everything, because most people I'm probably watching like, man, what are those belts? I like that. I wish they would have referenced it. I don't think they did reference it, but that was pretty cool. I mean, there was a spot where it looked kind of scary because Scorpio Sky jumped off the rope and Kazarian did a cutter, but like Scorpio like didn't land flat. He kind of rolled. It was like, that's kind of, hope he's okay. Then you had what was it that he had? You had Dan Lambert and Ethan Page interfere. You had Dan Lambert try to stop or prevent Kazarian from having Scorpio Sky tap out, and Ethan Page comes in, hits Frankie Kazarian with the other TNT title. I think it was the other title, or maybe it was his regular. It was the TNT title that Scorpio Sky had. He hits him. Scorpio Sky pins Frankie Kazarian 1, 2, 3. So they win. And after the match, you get Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky looking at each other, and Scorpio Sky's like, what the hell was that? What is that? And he's like, what team are you on? Whose team are you on? And then Scorpio Sky, he hits Frankie Kazarian, and I wasn't paying attention to what Dan Lambert says because a lot of times he says something stupid, and he did call Tay Conti, referred to her as whorehouse, like, just like, dude, like, why does every diss have to be so sexual? Like, bruh, that's concerning and disturbing now, man. Like, you can't come up with new material? Like, really? Like, you know there's a thing called Urban Dictionary. You can actually come up with, try to find something new, but even still, like, man, come on, man. Like, this, I don't know, man. There's, that's how Rampage ended. That's how it ended. Like I said, I don't know if they booked this show light because of their time slot and where they were, what they were competing against on the East Coast. I know on the West Coast, again, this was at 2:30 in the afternoon, if you will. Yeah, this episode of Rampage, yeah, this could have been better. This really could have been better, and it's not a shot at the wrestlers. It's just how this was booked, the match placement. This was just one of those shows that, you know, if you wanted to kill time while you were doing something, you had it in the background. Other than that, like, nothing major happened in this show. I don't know if they're saving it after the NHL final, the tournament or what have you, the playoffs. But man, this show really very underwhelming for me. Usually there's one or two matches like, okay, but for the most part, most of the matches are solid. But man, this was not it. This was very underwhelming. But if I had to say anything good about this match or this show, I would say it is the backstage segments. They were good. The Gun Club and the Acclaim, that was good. Man, it's just hard to say like what was good about this. Like, it's like this show was very bland. Like, you know, it took a commercial break for the crowd to really get into the match. And of course, when you're there, they don't tell you they're in commercial, but it's like halfway through the match, the crowd got into it. But yeah, this AEW, I know they will do better, but this was not one of their best rampages. And I know last week they got really low. They got like 200,000 viewers on that show. It's probably going to be even less than that last week, because just look like most people are probably going to stick around, as it starts because it's Death Triangle and we haven't seen him in a while. But once you get to, after Sean, I don't want to say Sean Spears. I would say the Owen Hart tournament. Then that's when most people probably just, all right, I'll watch it later. That's the thing. Thankfully, it's only 1 hour. Like, if looking at this run, I'm looking at my notes and everything. If I were to, the way this show should have been, I would have had, of course, you have Butcher and Blade and Mark Quinn and the Death Triangle. I actually would have had that as the main event. I would have switched it. I would have had Scorpio Sky and Kazarian start off the match, start off the show. Then, or actually, I would have had Rio and Ruby Soho start off the show. Then you have Sean Spears. Then you have Butcher, Blade, Mark Quinn, and Death Triangle. Then you have Kazarian and Sky. That's what I would have done. But having it this way, like the way the show came across, like it just really, it was hard to get into it because it's just like some of these people we haven't seen on TV for a while, so it's hard to connect. That, like I said, that's how I would have done. I would have had Rio and Soho open. Then I would have kept Sean Spears and Bear Boulder. Then I would have switched Tony Nese's segment with Jade Cargill, put her there. Then I would have had Death Triangle. I would have had the Tony Nese and Mark Sterling. Then I would have had the Gun Club and the Acclaimed. And then I would have had the Scorpio Sky Kazarian match. That's how I would have done it. But some people choose to book this stuff the way it is. But TK, man, come on, man. This was a very underwhelming show for an AEW fan and myself. But it is what it is. But this is my review for the May 13th episode of AEW Rampage. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Follow House of Wrestling on all social media platforms. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And like I always say, there's so much wrestling going on. There's no need to fight. Find what you like what you like. Just stop being a jerk, man. And stop just being so argumentative about wrestling. And also, just everything that's going on in the world, man. Let's just enjoy wrestling. Let this be an escape for what it is. It's escapism. Let us just, the 1-2 hours we watch it, let's just enjoy it and tweet like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Stop arguing and being argumentative and just very nasty to people about professional wrestling. All right, just let it be, man. With that, like I always say,